Time for the Kickoff Show.
Good! What a win for the 49ers!
It's Sunday, and we're locked in on the red and gold.
What a run by George Kittle!
Yes, sir. You know what day it is. Sunday. That means bang, bang, Niner gang. We're down here. Lorenzo, Neal, Evan Giddings, the Kickoff Show, and we are live at the Hilton Santa Clara. As always, come on out, enjoy the tailgate. Lo, it's been a little bit, but I feel like the last time we were down here, the vibes felt a little dissimilar from where they're at now. The Niners, the Bears were getting set for a must-win game for the 49ers, and at this point, look, these two teams are kind of headed in a southern direction, but the Niners not yet eliminated. It feels like this is a place in the season after two pretty terrible losses to Green Bay, to Buffalo. It's a get-right opportunity for San Francisco. You want to move to 6 and 7. You got to climb closer. But there's kind of a strange feeling in the air. Is it a little bit different than a month ago last time we were here?
It totally is. You know it is. I know it is. There is a lot of Chicago Bear fans out here. You just kind of feel the atmosphere is a little bit different. But like you said, we're saying it again. It's a must-win for the Niners, though. That's still the same. That it was a must-win then. It's a must-win now. After this game, though, will it be a must-win if the Niners don't find a way to pull this one off? But it is going to be an exciting game. Can't wait. Two teams that look like trending. I don't know. Looks like they're trending in two different ways. When you look at the Bears, you see how they're, the last week, a coach got fired. Why? Because their coach decided not to call timeout with 32 seconds left on the clock, and they're getting ready to beat the number one team in the NFL right now, and that's the Detroit Lions. Chicago went head-to-head with them in Detroit and took them down to the wire, and some say because of a coaching decision, didn't give them the best chance to win that ball game there.
Well, one team this weekend is going to break a losing streak. Chicago is looking to break a 6-game losing streak. That's why they fired Matt Eberflus coming off last week, Thanksgiving weekend. Of course, the Niners get drubbed in the snow in Buffalo against the Bills. They're on a 3-game losing streak as well. So some team has got to win today. And the Bears essentially eliminated from their postseason aspirations. That's a team that's on their way up as far as their young core. Caleb Williams, who we're going to see today. A lot of course, I believe USC fans in the house, very familiar with his career in college. Now they get to see him at Levi's Stadium. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I mean, they're just the walking dead at this point, Lo. They're trying to figure out how to win a football game without a cast of characters, not just the season endings in terms of Ayuk as well as Hargrave, but you're looking at Bosa doubtful. Trent's going to be out for this game again. Brock Purdy at least active, but Christian McCaffrey goes down last week with the sprain or the PCL injury. Jordan Mason as well. So it's going to be up to Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, and probably a lot of rookies in this football game to try and beat a Bears team that has basically made a switch and is kind of trending towards waving the white flag season.
Yeah, I think both these teams, the Bears look like waving the white flag, seeing what they can do, but don't be surprised. The Bears got some weapons over there. Keenan Allen, you love Keenan and what he's been.
Sure do.
Saw what this guy's able to do, some of the route running he is. He's going to be a problem today for the Niners. But yeah, you got a Niners team that's decimated with injuries, but it's crazy because every time the Niners bow their neck and every time the Niners say, look, we're getting ready to turn this thing around, guess what happens? There's an injury. They're going to say, we're going to play hard. This is our last shot. You're playing against, a Buffalo Bill. Boom, McCaffrey goes down. You're playing against Buffalo. Look what they're doing. They must have heard. They got the message from us. They got the MO because they were playing Jordan Mason. They were using both those guys, using both those back. Both of them now got injured again. So when you just look at this Niners team, it's been decimated by injuries. And it's been this fog, like the Grim Reaper just hanging. It's just a dark cloud hanging over this Niner team, Ian. It's like when can they get right, or what's going to transpire? It's just been that year this year, up, down. It has been a way to describe it. It's been a roller coaster ride, man. A roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and it feels like it's had more valleys than peaks.
Yes.
I mean, every time it feels like they're on their way back up. You're climbing up the roller coaster. You're waiting to get to the top before you hit the drop.
Yes.
Just the bottom falls out from under you.
Whoa, like the chain breaks and it's sliding back down. It was like, it was the train. I think I can pushing it up the hill, and all of a sudden someone tickles them on the bottom of the feet and they let the ball roll back down the hill. But they're not getting tickled on the feet. They're just getting injured.
Yeah.
And it really is frustrating when you see the way this Niners team has played. But one thing you can say, every week they seem like it's a must and they're going to be out of it. They find a way, and other teams in this conference find a way to lose to keep the door open for them. So I think that is the saving grace. But then you get in that locker room, and I imagine Kyle Shanahan this week is like, guys, finish. If I'm the message, what's the message to this team is just finish. Guys, I don't care about playoffs. I don't care about, what guy's up. It's just about finishing. It's about putting your name on your play. It's about you saying, I'm going out here today and I'm going to play the Niner way, but I'm going to play with pride. I'm going to play for myself. I'm going to play for my community. I'm going to play for the brothers in this room because no one in the media, no one gives us a chance now. Guys, we just got to play football. That's it. It's not about, who's going to go out and make plays and score and all. No. It's just to say, guys, let's just go play football. Let's go finish. I don't care win, lose, or draw. Let's find a way to finish. That's what they got to be thinking.
And I think this is a good Bears team to test that attempt against, because this is also a Chicago team that really, since blowing a Hail Mary game against Washington 6 weeks ago, they have not recovered.
Isn't that crazy?
They have lost every single game since that game. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. That game, that's interesting you brought that up, because you see a Chicago Bear player just, looking around, playing around, and you have a chance to win that game. It's a Hail Mary because you're getting involved with the fans and playing around. Your season turned, and it's crazy. You look at the Niners, some of the things that just happened to them. They haven't had that type of play, but you just had games where you've had it. And that's why I think it's about finishing today, because you talk about playing against a team in Arizona. Shanahan always says there's 3 games that just killed him. Arizona,
yep.
You're winning that game with 7 or 3 minutes left, right? If you're home, it's finished. They didn't. The Rams, you're up a double-digit lead. You have a chance to win that game. Didn't finish. Seattle, you're up. You're winning that game at home. Didn't finish. That's what Shanahan's message is. That's what this team's message today. It's not about other things. It's just about, guys, we have to finish. They have not played, and you said it. I mean, the stats you have, I know you're a better stats guy than I am, but you said in the fourth quarter, in the second half, this team has really not won a game in this fourth quarter. They haven't really been dominant.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter about stats, because you've taught me this too, that the eye test will tell you the Niners have been a team that haven't played a full 4-quarter football game. Even against the Jets, that's probably the one you could say, but as we found out, New York is a team that's just gone in the opposite direction. They've also fired their head coach. So the Niners have a chance. I think that's one game that I kind of cling to and say, all right, this is a weekend in which you can get right against an opponent. Is it going to save your season? Obviously, they still need a lot of help. You need Arizona, who plays Seattle at home today, to win, to get you a game back of the division. All of these things are still in front of the Niners. If you want to play the probability statistic right now, say that the Niners have about an 8% chance to make the postseason. You win today, that jumps closer to 25. So the Niners have to win football games, really to win out to get a chance to make the playoffs, but that all starts today against Chicago. So this is a game, and I think the Niners, look, they're going to be down a lot of their players, but that's kind of been the story of their season. Can they win a football game when they don't have their entire cast against the Chicago team that, yes, has lost 6 in a row, but this is also a team that's fighting, like you mentioned. They have a quarterback that can make a lot of off-schedule, off-script plays. Keenan Allen is emerging as the wide receiver they expected when they traded for him this offseason. They have a good defensive line. The one area that Chicago really struggles, which I'm looking forward to see if the Niners can take advantage of today, is their O-line. It's been decimated. It's been porous. I think Kalen Wilson's been sacked damn near 50 times already this season. So the Niners have to basically just put their feet in the ground, their hands in the ground, line up and say, can we beat this team that has been battered, bruised, and beaten over the course of this season?
And that's the question. You just made a valid point. You talked about a Chicago Bear team that offensive line has been decimated and hasn't played consistency, so it hasn't played with great consistency. But if you're a Niner team, how are you in the pass rush? You don't have Bosa.
Yep.
You don't have Hargrave. Have you been able to get home? You saw the way that this team's been playing of late. What gives you hope that these guys can get home against the beat-up Chicago Bear offensive line when you saw the way that they played a week ago against a very best team in the NFC, the Lions? I know it's a division game, but when you look at the Niners, can they get home? Do they have enough in the tank to get home? Do they have enough players when you're talking about get home and put pressure, because Caleb Williams has been sacked a lot? Does the Niners give you that confidence
that they can get a home against a young quarterback that's willing to make some mistakes.
Well, if they can't do it, that is a very troubling thing. And I know you don't have Nick Bosa. He's been out for a few weeks now with that rib/oblique injury. But this is a team that, again, is ripe for the picking as far as, I know you don't have top guys out there. On paper, the Niners, look, they haven't given me much confidence that they can go and beat a lot of teams this season. But they have to find a way to almost prove the pundits wrong at this point. We've been talking down on this team for the majority of the season because they haven't looked like the Super Bowl runner-ups. They haven't looked like a team that's got Super Bowl aspirations this season. They haven't even looked like an NFC West top team this year. So this is the kind of game in which I think this is the kind of game where everyone has counted the Niners out. I don't know about you below, but it feels like a lot of Niners fans, even the ones out here today enjoying a good time, they're here for the vibes. They don't know what to expect from this team. And so they're hoping that the Niners can find a way to win, but the Niners have to prove it to not just us, but I think to themselves that they're not a sub-500 football team. They've lost to two really good teams in the last 2 weeks. Green Bay we both really like. Buffalo might be the best team in the AFC. That's not necessarily unexpected, but this is a Chicago game that to me is an even playing field. This is a game that can get you back to where you need to be and at least give yourself a shot to make a run at the division.
I hope they do, and I hope not only make a shot, I hope they go out and dominate this game, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't see it. I mean, we haven't gotten into predictions, we haven't gotten into that stuff, and we're going to have a long ways to go, but I'm just coming out right now telling you, I don't know why this point spread is 5. What is it, 5-6? What is the line? I just don't understand.
Well, it's been moved down to 3 because I think everybody's betting on Chicago.
That's where the money's coming on Chicago. And guess what? If you told me to put a bet, I'm betting Chicago because you look at where the Niners are at. They're beat up. Not only they're beat up, they just can't get right. Not only can they just get right, they can't stop the run. Not only can they stop run, they can't stop the pass. Not only that, they're not good on third down. They're not good in the red zone. So I just think the perception is not reality. And it's interesting just to listen and hear the media talk about, hey, look, the Niners are favored. I don't see why, with all the injuries this team has, without having two of the best backs, one that was a top 5 running back in the league, meaning that what he was doing, not to say he's a top 5, I'm talking about before he got hurt and before McCaffrey came back, you're talking about Mason was in the top 5 rushing in the National Football League, and now you don't have him nor McCaffrey, and you want to still talk about now you're going to go with backups, and your offensive line, you don't have Trent, and you're looking at this and you don't have 2 of your defensive line guys that you brought in. It's hard for me to see why the smart money is coming on the Niners, and it's interesting just to hear the point spread for the Niners because I just don't know if they have enough horses today.
Well, I think it's funny, too. Like, this was a game that if I was a gambling man, I would actually stay away from because I don't know anything about it.
I would just stay away from it.
Well, but it's more about my lack of confidence in the Niners from what I haven't seen this season than it's about, well, I'm going to lean towards the Bears. The Bears have not won a road game this season. They've obviously lost 6 in a row, but this is a spot in which favors a team that, look, San Francisco's season hangs by a thread. If they lose this game, they are done. So that is the one thing that I think a lot of people have hope in, that at the very least, your back is literally up against the wall. Can you come out swinging? And we're going to find out whether this team is actually just walking dead with a bunch of injuries and waiting to be put into the dirt, or if they have a little bit of life left. The one thing about this game that intrigues me a little bit is some of those younger rookie players, because as you know, Lo, sometimes when your vets give up on a season, it's very difficult for everyone to sort of rally behind them because, they're moping. They know that they've been there before. This is not where the season wants to be going. But without those guys on the field, you're going to see a lot of rookies today who quite honestly don't know better. So they're going to come out playing like their hair's on fire because that's all they know how to do. The rookie Pearsalls, the Malik Mustafas, the Isaac Guerendos, who's going to be toting the rock as RB1 today. I'm curious to see what those players have to say about a season in which is their first in the NFL. Can they make a difference in a football game today?
They're going to have to, and they're going to have to step up, and they're going to have to step up quite often. I look at a guy that they're going to have to try to stop, man. Sweat. DeAndre Sweat, when you look at Andre Sweat, the way that he runs the ball, he's physical. He gets downhill. So I want to see if this Niner team is going to be able to stop the run. You got a lot of young guys, and Grendel's going to carry the majority of the load, and this is a guy that's been chomping at the bit to see if he can do it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. But your offensive line, too, has not created the line of scrimmage. It hasn't played well. Yeah, you played well in the snow. No one had traction. Both those teams neither team could stop the run because it was snowing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this offensive line collectively, are they going to be able to, to get Neal going, because he is a pretty good back. But when you think about Chicago Bears and what they've been able to do running the ball, they've been pretty physical too. So there's a lot of just little things that's going to take place today. And like you said, all those young guys, Mufasa, all those young guys that are on this Niner team, the young guys are going to have to step up and make plays tonight. And they're going to have to step up and make plays all day, because you have a lot of guys that aren't able to play.
Well, that's the voice of Lorenzo Neal, damn near 20 years in the league. My name is Evan Giddings. This is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. You've been wronged. Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. If you're looking to tailgate before the game, make sure to stop by the Hilton Santa Clara. Great food, great drinks, a great time. And the tailgate party, as always, is presented by Habas Law. This is a game, again, just kind of going down the injury report for the Niners. They're not just missing Bosa. They're not just missing Trent. They're also missing some of those ancillary players. Christian McCaffrey's out as well, but Jordan Mason, like you mentioned, is also on IR with a high ankle sprain. Drake Greenlaw expected to be back for the Thursday night game next week against the Rams, but that doesn't help you today. Aaron Banks is also out for this game. They get Diamador Lenore back. Talanoa Hufanga questionable after limited practice on Friday, but you get Jordan Elliott back. Dominic Pooney available. Brock Purdy is healthy, though he's dealing with a right shoulder. Has been for a couple of weeks now. This is a game that I think that the Niners they're banged up. Chicago has the health advantage. And so to kind of go back to the Buffalo game momentarily, injuries were obviously a big storyline going into that football game, but I can't imagine how demoralizing it is when you see someone like Christian McCaffrey, who just began to look like Christian McCaffrey at the beginning of that football game, basically be an inch away from breaking a play for a touchdown, and instead he gets a shoestring tackle, bangs his knee on that snow in Buffalo, and then he hurts his PCL, and he's essentially done for the remainder of the season. They said there's a chance for the postseason, but we're not there yet. PCL, he's on IR. I can't imagine how demoralizing it is knowing you have all these guys that are already hurt heading into that game, and then McCaffrey, boom, he goes down just when he begins to look like his former self.
Yeah, that's got to be tough, because you saw the way that McCaffrey was running in Buffalo, and just he's been a guy, and you hear Shanahan, he's a guy that puts so much pressure on himself. He strives for greatness. He's always striving to be the best that he can be, because he's a pro. He's a constant pro. So when you see a guy like that step back and like, man, here's a guy that's injured, and that's something that hurt this Niner. And guys know who he is. So that's a big blow for this team. Mason's a big blow for this team. It's just tough watching this team try to hobble. But one thing you can say, they're trying to hobble to the finish line. They're still fighting. They're still fighting. And the thing that doesn't give me a lot of hope. And I know they're still fighting, but there's a part that says why I know this team is done. The last 2 weeks, you played against Green Bay. Green Bay went toe-to-toe with the Detroit Lions, and it was whatever offense had the ball last was going to win that game.
Yeah, it was a great game.
Green Bay and Detroit was a great game. Green Bay, you and I believe they're, top 3, top 4 in NFC. Top 3 could be high as top 2.
Yeah.
They lost. The Niners, they mopped the floor with the Niners. Now, that's week. That was last week. Now, the week after, and then this past week, what happened? You played against Josh Allen, another team that's top 2 or 3 in the AFC. And look what happened to you. So you played against the teams that are top 3. I'm not going to say 1, but at least 2 or 3, and 3 and 4. And you're in both conferences,
Contenders.
AFC and contenders.
Yeah.
And you got mopped. That's a problem. See, that's why everyone's like, oh, yeah, they can fight and get in the playoffs. I hope they do, all those things. But what gives you hope? And that's the thing, E, that I keep coming back and asking you not to be like, oh, doom and gloom. But when you saw, it's like an amateur fighter stepping up to the pros. But not just stepping up to the pros, but stepping up to a contender, fighting for a contender at the belt, fighting for a guy that has the title. What happened?
And that's what they're trying to figure out, because I don't have the answer to the question. And that in and of itself is a problem. The fact that you don't have an answer. And that to me is probably the difference between San Francisco and Chicago. You can look at the Bears' schedule. Yes, they've lost 6 in a row. Yes, they're 4-8, but they lost to Green Bay by a point. On a field goal in a game they probably should have won. At Detroit, obviously had a chance to go down, at least tie and send it to overtime, and due to coaching inefficiency, they lost that football game. Commanders, they played tightly, obviously lost to them. This is a team that lost early in the year close to Houston. They have close losses. So, yes, they're a worse team on paper. The record is worse than the Niners, but they have played, to your point, the contenders tougher than San Francisco.
And that's the part. That's why I look at this matchup, and I'm like, man, for people just to look at this and say, oh, the Niners up by 6, so now bet it down to 3. I would stay away from this game for those reasons, the ones you just laid out. Chicago Bears have played against some tough teams and had a chance. The Commanders, they could have beat. Lions, they could have beat. Green Bay could have beat. You can put 3 and 4 more wins on their, if missed the field goal. They've been in these games, had to go in overtime. So when you think about a team like that, they've been battle tested, and that's why it's a reason why people are talking about a Belichick to there. It's a reason why people are saying, godly, whoever gets this Chicago Bear coach job is going to freaking have a team that's ready to compete.
Well, and we got coming up, I think, a question that's interesting about the state of the franchise, who you would rather be, where you'd rather go, and what kind of team you'd like to see both the Niners compared to the Bears be next year. We'll get to that in our next hour. But to me, also one thing that's interesting is you look at the Niners, when they've played contenders this year, they have shown us who they are. I know their closest loss was week 2 against Minnesota, but that was a game that was not as close as the final score indicated to me. The Chiefs obviously wiped them here at home back all the way in week 7. The Bears, meanwhile, that's where I think that the youth and kind of the next step they have to take has revealed itself. Very young teams oftentimes will be in football games because of their talent, but being unable to close, or just more veteran teams closing in out, that's been the difference between them being a 4-8 team and potentially an 8-4 team that I believed had the chance to make the playoffs this first season under Caleb Williams. You also look at the 2 quarterbacks. I think they're very interesting. A lot of people were expecting a lot more from Caleb because he's the number 1 pick. He's got high expectations. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy, who obviously came into the league with the lowest level of expectations, it's almost as if now, everyone expects him to transform into this quarterback a la Josh Allen or Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, to be the guy to just all of a sudden lift everybody up around him that's been dropping like flies. To me, there's been unfair expectations set for both of these quarterbacks this season. Not that Caleb Williams hasn't been, underwhelming at times, not that Brock Purdy hasn't been inconsistent at times, but to me, in different ways, there's been too much pressure placed on both these quarterbacks.
I couldn't agree with you more, but mostly to me, it's Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's had unjust on him. But when you look at the young quarterback, hey, look, no one's really expecting. They said, okay, but they've been in these games. Those young quarterbacks, he's been in these games. You looked at the record. You talked about who they played, and they could have won those games. So you think about what he's been able to do. He didn't lose that game. When Seminoles were coaching, their defense let a guy get behind, and in the end of the game, you're going to let the guy get behind you and hurt you. So when you think about some of these things, it's just unfortunate that these things have happened, with Chicago. When you look at Purdy, Purdy has had a lot of people get injured on him. A lot of things have happened, and that's what he's not one of those guys that people think, okay, he's got to play like Josh Allen. He needs to be those. I think it's wrong. It's crazy for people to put that type of pressure on him. He's going to go win. Yes, he can go manage. Yes, he can go do it. If he has a great defense and he has people that are, Brock Purdy's going to win games. Right now, he's like you just alluded to, he's having to do too much. And that's what I think is hurting Brock Purdy, because they're expecting him to do too much right now. And that's what is the problem, because too many other things are going awry with this team. And so that's unfair to me on Brock Purdy, because his defense aren't well. His special teams isn't well. You don't have your top receiver, a lot of other things. Your offensive line's been beat up, a lot of other things, and then they're saying, okay, Purdy, go win the ball game, go do this for us. I don't think he's that type of quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be that type of quarterback, but he's a quarterback that's going to go win games. He's a quarterback that's going to play smart. He's a quarterback that can win if you have a good team built around him.
And I think that people just have this idea because of the high level of quarterbacking set in the NFL by Patrick Mahomes that if you can't do that, then you're not a good quarterback. And to me, what you just said is not a condemning statement.
No.
Saying that you're not going to be that quarterback is not a bad thing. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks around the NFL. In fact, one that I think quarterbacks, perhaps the best team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I think Jared Goff is just what Brock Purdy is, but he has a top 5 offensive line.
Great running backs.
Great set of running
Two-headed
backs.
monsters.
Great wide receivers and an adequate defense. Jared Goff can be the instrument that plays that offense in a beautiful medley, and Brock Purdy can be that guy, but because of all the injuries, because of some of the lack of production, maybe because some players have now become over the hill on his offense, he's not allowed to be that guy. If Jared Goff had to be in the same situation of the San Francisco 49ers that Brock Purdy has, I think we'd see a lot of similar things. Jared Goff, I think, is a really good quarterback.
I agree.
I think Brock Purdy's a really good quarterback. You swap
Agreed.
them, I think you have similar results.
I do too. And the offensive line that he's playing with in Detroit, the offensive line is better right now. They hold up better for Jared Goff. They give him a lot of time. And that's why with me, it's crazy because you brought this up and now I'm just going to switch gears a little bit. I look at this Niner team and I look around the league. And here's another thing. You and I, we continue to talk about Dak Prescott getting $62 million. We thought that it was overpaid, way too much money. Here's what people have to start realizing, I think, organizations and franchises. Because you have a quarterback and everyone says, well, the quarterback's supposed to be the highest paid guy, you got to keep setting these records. When you do that, you are setting your team back. Because the Dallas Cowboys paid Dak Prescott $62 million a year, guess what? They're not going to be able to pay Michael Parsons. So now, because you've already paid your receiver, you're not able to pay Michael Parsons. So now you got to look at what you've done to your team. And that's not a quarterback that is a Mahomes. That's not a quarterback that's a Josh Allen. That's not a quarterback that is a Cincinnati Bengals quarterback when you think about what Joe Burrows bring to the table. He's not that guy. Those guys that I just mentioned, they can elevate their team without necessarily weapons. They can carry a team. Dak Prescott is not that type of guy. And that's why the Niners, it behooves them to say, look, I'm going to give you $40 million a year, but I'm going to guarantee you a 4-year deal, give you $200 million. And this is not an indictment on Purdy. And teams got to start saying, look, just because Dallas did that, it doesn't make it right. Because the Cowboys paid you this and they did that, I can't do that. The Niners got to get back in their box and say, we're not going to just pay people because other teams did it. And they're saying, oh, that's loyalty. That's not loyalty. That is being not a good steward because you're not worrying about the good of the team. Guess what? If Purdy can go on the market and go get $65 million, bless you, brother. Let him
Bless
go.
you.
If he can go get 65 or get 60 million, let him. And that's what the Niners have to do. Guess what? If Trent Williams can go on the market and come and get more money, let him go. Because now I'm for the players. I'm speaking from a player's standpoint. Look, if I can go on the market, if I'm freaking Debo and I go on the market and go get more money, Niners, let him go. Set a precedent to say, here's a number. We are not going to pass this number. We love you. We love what you did to the organization. We're going to, you come back. We're going to celebrate you because what the great years you did. But stop not overpaying, but if it doesn't fit your budget, because I don't want to say guys get overpaid, because if I can go on the market and go get it, go get it.
Yeah.
I had to go to other teams to go get it because I thought I was underpaid. But if it doesn't fit your budget and it doesn't fit your circumference, why the hell are you trying to make it go? You're going to hurt your team long term, and that's where the Niners are out. They can no longer just say, I got to pay because this is the right thing to do, because I got to go pay this guy because what they've done and all this stuff, and then you blow it out the salary cap, and then you make them the highest paid, and now you hurt your team. You put your team behind the 8 ball because you did something that you shouldn't have done because you felt that you got to do it, and you didn't have to do it.
And that's 2 decades worth of experience in the NFL talking right there. Lorenzo Neal alongside Evan Giddings here. We're going to step aside, come back after this quick break on the on the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. If you're looking at tailgate before the Niners play the Bears, 125 kickoff, Levi's Stadium, Niners with their backs up against the wall. Got to get a win today. If you're looking at tailgate before the game, stop by the Santa Clara Hilton Hotel. Great food, great drinks, great time. The tailgate party is always presented by Habas Law. The number is 888-957-9570 if you want to get on the conversation. Low, Evan, back after this on 95.7 The Game.
Television sales on Black Friday set new records as millions of Americans snapped up the hot deals. But a lot of people were out of town or too busy to take advantage of the special pricing. So, how about a redo?
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
Well, Lorenzo Neal is out here at the tailgate presented by Habas Law right outside the Hilton Santa Clara throwing footballs, interacting with the crowd. It doesn't matter if you got a Bears jersey on, if you got a Niners jersey on as we get set for the 125 kickoff. Come down here, have some fun, maybe catch a football from Lo Neal.
Absolutely. I'm throwing balls out there. There's the greatest receiver of all time walks through, and he's still out there right now.
Who?
Jerry Rice, baby.
Oh, my
That's where all the
goodness.
pictures. You don't even see that, E. Look, that's why everyone's there, because Jerry just reaches up with one hand and try to snag it out there, but it hits the wire. So Jerry was going to catch it, make it look easy. But Jerry's got a crowd around him. It's really gotten hyped out here because the one and only Jerry Rice, Hall of Famer, best that ever did it. You see him out there taking pictures, got the shades on. He's suited and booted. He's looking pretty in the face and slim in the waist. I wish that guy had a couple more plays in him because, hey, you know what? The Niners could use him today. And you know what? I wish I had a couple in me because I could get out there too today, baby, because you know what? Every man, a lot of men are down on that team right now, but I'm going to tell you, this is what you get to see. Like you talked about earlier, a lot of young guys get to make their debut, and they're going to play substantial minutes today, and they're going to have some crucial minutes today, so it's going to be interesting to see how they fare.
Well, with all the people crowded around Jerry, it looks like he's being guarded by Deion Sanders. I mean, God, he's being absolutely blanketed right now. I don't know if he could get open.
He can't shake him. He's trying to get out of it right now. They got Jerry stuck. Jerry's got the cameras are over there. We should go Instagram Live and see this. I mean, the cameras are all over there. Everyone's trying to take pictures. Jerry's in there like he's just smiling away. He's going through being gracious as usual with this time, but you know he's trying to get to the game. He's like, okay, let me get out of here. Help me out. Get me out of here. I think they got the security out there right now trying to get him out of here. But watching a guy of that stature, you know, come through and just make the fans just so happy. You watch these kids, everyone's following him out. It's awesome just to see Jay Rice right now exiting the playground. Everyone's little kid's got his 23 smiling like he's a Christmas, happier than Christmas Day right now. Jerry Rice, the great, out there doing it in.
Oh, man, the GOAT spreading that holiday cheer here as we get set for the Niners and the Bears. Niners at 5-7, trying to break that 3-game losing streak. Bears trying to snap a 6-game skid. You know, just as a quick aside, Jerry is the man. I know that a lot of people probably, I don't know, maybe they don't have that interaction every single time. You don't get to see those kind of guys just walk through tailgates like here at the Hilton Santa Clara. But I got to kind of meet him for a second, actually at a Cal game last year, because his son, Brendan, who now plays for the Chargers, was at USC right before that game. Jerry was on the sideline with Ronnie Lott, suited and booted like he is now. But he was really nice. Just walked up to him, asked him for a picture, said, hey, respect everything you've done for, of course, the Niners, but also just as a man in the community. He's at all home games. Sometimes he travels. He is a great representative of a great franchise. Not everybody has that, Lo.
No, every franchise does not have a guy of that caliber and that statue that not just they have them, but are they willing to put in the time and do what Jerry does and make himself accessible for the fans, for the people. You watch this guy in a suit sprint the whole 100 yards. He goes onto the field. The things that he does just represent the Niners. This is, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. You got this. We got to witness the greatest receiver of all time as a Niner, and I think a lot of people and that's why when you see Jerry comes, he's so meek and so humble with this time when he could be like, no, I don't have time for that, because a lot of guys, they don't. But Jerry when it comes to that, the guy is absolutely unbelievable. He had an unbelievable career, and now he's having an unbelievable career just hanging out with the fans.
Yeah, and look, he also joins Bonte and Shasky once a month, every single month during football season on 95.7 The Game. So make sure to keep an eye out for that.
You see what I got? You see what I got coming, right?
Oh,
my guys! These are guys. These are some guys. This is a family from Bakersfield. These guys, they came in. They got me a cigar. They brought me a cigar. They're saying hello. They're representing Bang Bang Niner, representing the Niners. Great people. They're from Bakersfield. They come on. And
I hope we actually get a chance to light this one. What's going on, my man? Nice to meet you.
We need to bring them on and let them say hello. Let them say hello to the people. You know what I mean?
Hop on.
Come on. We can talk about how you guys come on. Hop on with.
I was just telling Lo, it's been a long time since we got to light a victory cigar for the Niners after a game, especially here at home. So I'm hoping today could be one of those days. But
Oh, he took
my
care of
gosh.
you too. See that?
Oh my gosh.
That's what we do in the Central Valley,
dude.
See, we're gonna bring you on and talk about why he's got this victory cigars. That's
waiting.
Yeah. So see how my people take care of you, brother. Look at that. We got some nice cigars. I got a Cohiba. You know what I mean?
Dude, you've been taking care of me since I met you, man. And now you're just spreading the love, bringing the SenCal love up here. This is fantastic.
That's a real Cuban, by the way.
So this is the real.
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of fakes out there, brother. I got the real. And look at the case. Oh my goodness, baby! Watch out! Watch out!
You find these down in Bakersfield?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh yeah, he's on radio. He can't. Hey, come on! You can't call my guy out. This is what we do it in the Valley. You can't call him out.
God.
So how long you guys been Niner fans? You guys come from Bakersfield. Tell us what's first.
Well, my wife grew up. Mother loved the Niners to the point where the mom and dad were arguing every Sunday. Going back and forth with all of this. We just seen Jerry Rice.
I was just gonna say, Flash Amos
Did you guys get a picture with him?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So it just kind of transferred over to my wife and her sister, and being here is one of the. You guys made some dreams come true today. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When you guys look at the Niners and you think about playing against a Bear team, what has been the biggest disappointment this year when you think, because you guys are fans, what are you guys feeling? We're talking heads, we do the radio, but as a fan, do you still have hope? What do you think about this Niner team in today's game?
I think there's some learning to do because of the injuries that have happened. So the people got to step up and be able to fill in when they need to fill in. I really don't follow them, the way some people do, but you don't have to be a connoisseur or a professional to know that injuries, kind of damage anybody's season.
100%. Well, but I feel like this is the perfect opportunity because, again, I feel like as media members sometimes we don't get to take a step back and just get the pulse really of what this team is and what the season has become. I do want to ask you, about. I feel like the most polarizing person the last couple of weeks for the Niners has been Kyle Shanahan, and I understand he's done great things. I think he's still got a lot of good left here in the Bay Area, but I don't know, maybe it's because Chicago just fired their head coach last week and people are disappointed with the season. What kind of job do you think that Kyle Shanahan has done, and how much faith do you have in him to continue to lead this team?
Well, again, I think it comes down to, you build your offense to what you have as weapons, right? And when your weapons aren't there, it's hard for the guy to, unless you got double the, payroll that you can, get some quality, A1 backups in there. That's pretty much the only way you're going to be able to do it. Considering all things, I think that he's got to do a good job, right? Or
I agree with you, and that's what that people have to realize when injuries can hurt any team. Are you still believing in this? How about you, Young? Are you still believing in this Niner team? And what
100%,
gives you
100%? So we got to do it, man. We have no other choice. So this is it.
This is it.
Well, it is. I think if you lose today, it's maybe not mathematical, but it's going to be very, very difficult. So, but that's cool. The fact that you're here for this kind of game, I don't know. Do you feel like fans that have kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit, not having as much faith as you, the faithful, are right now having?
I think that it's just disheartening, right? When you see your team not winning the way that they should win, it's
with how good they've been.
You got to hear all the other fans talking all that smack, So it's a little demoralizing. People start, man, I know. So it's almost like Niners fans kind of know how Raiders fans feel now.
So that's what's good. We go down the cigars. Yeah, he stuck that one in. I go down to Bakersfield, great people, and just glad you guys made it up and to watch a game. I know you guys been Niner fans, and it's just awesome that you guys are here. And thanks for popping on.
No, man, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming by. Thank you for hooking up.
So you guys got to send this back. It's on 95.7. You guys got to go on Odyssey. They can download this, and you guys can play this clip at the cigar shop and let them know. Hey, look, we did some radio. You want to give a shout out so you can make sure they hear your voice?
I do. So, first and foremost, Z.
Yes.
Cigars Lounge. So, hey, that's the place to be. If you haven't been there, you got to go.
Go to Z's. There we go.
Other than that, everybody else, family, friends, we did it. And we're going to do it tonight. So
there we go.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank
yes, sir.
you.
Oh, see, Lo, this is what you do. You bring people together. And whether it's at the Hilton Santa Clara, whether it's down in Bakersfield.
See that? We got a cigar out of it as well, right?
Yes, we did. A real Cuban. A real Cuban.
Oh, and look what where's our pull up our YouTube view. YouTube. Look what I just got. Look what my man just gave me. I want you guys to see what what great people, how we do it in BK, the Bakersfield. Not only did I get a Cuban, but I got look at this. Look what he gave me. How about that? Nice little cigar holder. Put it right inside. It's like a little pin. Look at that. You know that's nice. Let me show you right there. Hey, you know what? I was working something down there. There you go. Look at that. Boom, flip top. Boom. Cuban. I'm dialed up. And E, show him what you got. My man took care of you too.
Oh yes, absolutely. Look, I've been waiting forward to light one of these with Lo after a Niners win about a month now, especially here at home when we're out here in Santa Clara enjoying the tailgate, all the rest. I'm looking forward to lighting this after a victory. Can we need a victory?
Niners,
get a win today.
We need a victory so we can light up our cigars tonight. Man. You and I, E.
Exactly,
you and I.
exactly. And it's hopefully going to be against the Chicago Bears because the Niners, they only got 2 more home games after this one left. It's going to be on Thursday. It's going to be on Monday. A lot of those midweek matinees. The Niners got their last Sabbath here on Sunday at home of the season to try and get a victory, and hopefully this can be the one against the Chicago Bears team that's also with their season going in kind of a poor direction.
You know what? I hope so, too. And I know you and I both, speak the same. We want to see this Niner team pull it off. But it's just interesting, having the fans on and just listening to the fans' perspective.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's tough being a little bit down. Yeah, it's frustrating. We know that we should be better, but also being optimistic about the injuries. And I'm not going to sit here and say that injuries hasn't hurt this team because they have hurt this team. But I think it's more than just injuries. I don't know, E, you can jump in and chime in if you disagree, but I don't know if this team had everyone the full roster. I don't know if they would still be the top of the NFC. I think you would still be playing well, but I don't know if the Rams game. I don't know if you still would have beat, Josh Allen the other night. I don't know if you had everyone, Brandon Ayuk and everyone. I don't know if you beat Green Bay. I don't know if you win those 2 games. No, I do think you would have, wouldn't have lost all 3 of those games, Arizona and Seattle, and of course the Rams. But there are some games I just don't know. I don't know how we'd be looking at this team, how much different of a lens we'll be looking this year.
Well, so coming into this season, I thought just based on what happened last year, you play more football than anybody except for the team that beats you in the Super Bowl. And to me, that kind of motivation when you win the chip allows you to run it back and have the youthful energy. You can kind of trick yourself. When you lose, and I think we see it with a lot of Super Bowl losses, that team has a really hard time bouncing back the next season. So to me, coming into this year, I felt like the Niners were a playoff team, but I thought they'd be around 10-7. Obviously, they still have a chance if they went out to get to that point, but I'm not sure it's going to happen because they got a lot of good teams coming up beyond the Bears this week. But my point is that I thought that they were due for some regression. So I'm with you that I don't know if they were healthy and whole if this all of a sudden transforms back into a 1 seed. I don't. I always thought that Philly was going to be back this year. I thought that Detroit was going to be up there. They're the number 1 seed right now in the NFC. So the Niners, to me, had an uphill battle to begin with, and then combined with the off-season contract disputes, the injuries from before the season, the one they've sustained during the season, they have shot themselves in the foot, no doubt. But even if this roster was whole, I just felt like it was going to be a really difficult task for this team to get back to where everyone just, I think, unfairly expected them to be in, which was in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. I think they had a chance to make that kind of run, but it was not going to be as easy as it was last year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and you made some very valid points just listening to the way that you articulated that about, hey, look, it's a long season. You played more games than anybody, last year and the year before. You've been tired. You've been getting beat up, and now you're in a situation which, no matter what, without the injuries, you still probably would have had Brandon Ayuk hold out.
Yep.
You still would have had Trent want the money. You still would have had Greenlaw injured. So you look at what's going on and what's transpired, you still would have had some hurdles to cross. And so you probably wouldn't be as dominant, but you might have, still snuck in the playoffs, but just people would be still looking at you at a different lens. And now with all the injuries and where they're at now, the lens doesn't look great. It doesn't seem like, it seems possible, but I don't know if it's probable that they get in. So you look at this team and look and see what they're trying to accomplish, and can they accomplish with all the injuries? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding, but you know what? This team is resilient. They're going to try to find a way, but today it starts.
Well, what I want to run by you and the fans, if they want to chime in too, again, come by the Hilton Santa Clara, enjoy the great tailgate party presented by Habas Law, but the number is 888-957-9570, also for the Comcast Business text line. With that, with what we talked about, the uphill battle, the injuries, kind of the perfect storm that's hit the Niners this season, that's resulted in a 5-7 record, potentially missing the playoffs. Do you just run it back next year, assuming that you're not going to have as much injury luck? You try and keep the band together, or do you think about, because I've heard a lot of fans, and the ones we just talked to from Bakersfield are real ones. They're faithful. They still believe in this football team. But I wonder, because I've heard a lot of fans say, well, you got to think about resetting. You got to think about rebuilding. I'm not so sure I abide by that, because a lot has gone wrong for the Niners this year that I think if given another season, I don't know about getting back to the Super Bowl, but I think this can be a successful team next year. I just wonder if a lot of people want them to reset things. So if I asked you if the Niners are looking at potentially running it back next year, which includes paying Purdy in all probability, but do you think that that's the best avenue for the Niners to go down?
Yeah, I think I would try to run it back, but I would play Purdy. But like I said,
I'm
not
draw that
Purdy.
line in the sand.
I'm drawing that line in the sand with a lot of players, and I'm going to go get better. I'm going to go try to draft in the trenches. I need I need guys that can play the technique and the things that I need to accomplish if I'm going to compete. I'm making sure that, hey, look, I try to look and see what assets do I have to trade. I try to say I'm going to make a run, but I have to shed some cap. I have to make sure that I get better at some positions. You have to make sure you do the things you need to do as a Niner organization in order to kick the can down the road. With me, yes, I'm waiting for next year, but I'm telling you right now, I don't know if I play Trent Williams again this year. I don't know if I say, hey, look, but I put him on the treadmill. I make sure that I get things for him to, health-wise, to see if I can make sure that he's in the best situation as far as health. I don't know if I want the wear and tear on this 36-year-old guy, this man that there's a mammoth of a man, but getting older. So if you got a certain amount of bullets in your gun, do you want to use that right now for this year, especially if you're not going anywhere? So I don't know if I want to put the physicality on Trent again this year for the remaining of the season, if that's my goal, to say, look, we got to run this thing back next year, because it's going to be interesting to see kind of what they do and what the mindset of the front office and what the coaches, what they're going to do in order to run it back next year, and what does that look like?
Well, that's where I think I'm 100% with you, is if you indeed want to run this thing back, and I think there's more reason to do that than try and, I don't know, maybe it's move off the quarterback, which you could, or set a path to move off the quarterback. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going anywhere. I don't think that John Lynch is going anywhere. I don't think there's these wholesale changes that a lot of people have, wished for, seemingly just because of one down season. But what I do think is that if you are indeed going to run it back, I'm with you. Trent should not play another game this year. Christian McCaffrey obviously should not play another game this year. Nick Bosa even might not play another game this year. To me, the only guy that's been injured and banged up that probably should play a game or two might be Dre Greenlaw.
I'm with you.
Just to
I'm
get
getting
him back
mindset.
on the field.
With that, you're speaking my language. Without a doubt, I played Dre Greenlaw for the simple fact that he needs to get his timing. He needs to get some things together. So I play Dre Greenlaw just to let him see what it feels like to be back on the field. I would make sure, like you said, it's next week, that Thursday night game. I'm playing maybe in Miami. I just let him get, but I don't play him in that cold weather that we played. That's why I'm glad they didn't. But yeah, you do that. Trent, I'm shutting him down. Like I said, you have to draw a line in the dirt. If you're the Niners, if you really truly want to compete next year, if you don't draw the line in the dirt and you play Purdy $62 million plus, you're not competing. I'm just telling you, not that you don't want to, but you're not being physical responsible.
Yeah.
That's the problem that you have. I don't have a problem with paying Purdy because he deserves to get paid. Now, if he can go in the market and go get $100 million and go in the market and get $1 billion, whatever he can go get, it would be great. But if you're saying, hey, look, I'm going to overpay a guy, I'm going to not overpay, but if I'm going to do that, I can't do it. It's not healthy for the team. And I just don't want people to think, I'm hating on Purdy, because Purdy deserves to be paid. And that's where I think that's where the Niners organization's got to say, what are we trying to do next year? Are we really trying to run this back? And if we're trying to run this back, and we pay a guy $25 million, because if you're talking about from $40 million to $60 million, you're talking about $20 million different plus.
Yeah.
And what does that do? I can get 3-4 players for $20 million.
Or you can keep a guy like Dre Greenlaw. You can keep like that. $20 million might cost you Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, and another excess player down the future. And those are, as we've seen from this Niners season, that depth ends up mattering because injuries are inevitably going to happen. Now, maybe not as many as have happened this season to the Niners, but when you get a guy that's hurt, all right, you need someone else to step up. And I feel far more confident that also a player around that guy or that position that's a little bit diminished due to injury, those players around them can help. But if it's a lot of rookies, if it's a lot of young players, I think that the Niners season is going in a decent direction to help those young guys get valuable snaps and reps. But are they ready to help you win? I think these games are helpful for Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, even some of the young players on offense. It's going to be valuable for Garendo. But next season, if those players, are they going to be ready to help you go to where you want to, which is obviously back to the postseason? I'm not so sure. Often it's the veteran teams that make those deep postseason runs. Maybe it's a rookie or two that helps, but they're not dependent. To me, the Niners right now are dependent on a lot of their young players, and that's probably why they're around a 500 football team.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I'm going to tell you right now, without a question, the Niners have to get better, and they have to get better in free agency, and they have to get better in the draft, because you can't miss. Because if you miss, you think about the last several years since John got here, and they have done a phenomenal job. So you're going to have some problems, but let's go through this. Think about who you drafted. Solomon.
Yeah,
that was a first round pick, the first pick in the draft, top 3-5 picks.
Yep.
Think about Trey. Get the draft capital you gave up to get him.
That hurts.
Think about before last year, not last year, but 3 years ago, the defensive lineman that's with the big guy, Kinlaw.
The guy you drafted to replace DeForest Buckner.
So think about what you've done in the draft and what that's cost you. So you had those guys, and you're supposed to have those guys for 4 to 5 years, and then boom, then you can redraft them. But you got nothing for it.
Yeah.
So you're shelved. So this team, when I'm telling you, if you want to run this back, you can't miss in the draft. You got to go get some guys that are going to play depth. You got to go get some guys that are hungry, that's going to play special teams at a high level. You have to do this. If you're the Niners, that's where you got to get better. You're asking me, how is this team going to run it back, and how they're going to be successful, and what do they need to do? You got to hit on these draft picks. You have to. And you got to get better in free agency, and you got to make sure you get the right people in this place, because right now you don't have it. And if you're going to run it back, and if you're going to compete, you better start making it on these draft picks, because those are the guys that make their living on special teams.
Well, and especially if you decide that you are going to pay your quarterback, whether you pay him 60, whether you pay him 40, it's going to be a massive pay raise for Brock Purdy that's going to impact everything else. So you're right. You need more cheap labor. you need more cheap labor.
That's just what it is, man.
And so you're going to need to hit on your rookies. You're going to need to find some of those smaller free agent acquisitions that can come in and help. The Niners have a lot to evaluate over the course of the offseason, that's for sure. But coming up next on the Kickoff Show, again, stop by the Hilton Santa Clara, say what's up to Lone Neal, the tailgate outside, presented by Habas Law. Jerry Rice was just here. We got our guys from Z's Cigar Shop in Bakersfield coming by, hooking up the show. The great Tim Jordan is here as well. Come say hi to him.
Baby, he's
I don't know
why
nobody wants to say hi to this guy, because he is the most friendly person that I have met at 95.7 The Game. I know he's in his shell a little bit today, but we're going to try and bring him out.
Yes, we are.
Get him outside. He's got the Christmas lights hooked up. He just told me at his house before the show. He's got an exuberant energy.
He's a
waiting
legend
to burst onto the scene, and you can come by and say what's up at the Hilton Santa Clara to everybody. Again, we'll be back after this on the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game, presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention, which is why when it's time
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
All right, Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal, nearly 2 decades of NFL experience coming at you live from the Hilton Santa Clara, presented by Habas Law, tailgate party, all the rest, Bears, Niners, 125 kickoff, Levi's Stadium. Both teams trying to snap multi-game skids. And Lo, it's been such a great environment here today. In fact, actually, Tim Jordan just helped us get rid of all of our footballs, which usually takes us like an hour and a half.
It takes us usually longer than that. Timmy Jordan was absolutely amazing. I thought it was a little bit of Brock Purdy, a little bit of, Joe Montana-esque. I mean, I saw him throw the deep ball. I saw him throw the intermediate pass. I mean, Tim, you were throwing these balls all around to all the fans. I only saw a couple incompletions. I saw the little wind move a couple of them. But, Tim, you were absolutely amazing out there.
Well, first of all, this is more of a message to Matt Nahigian. He might have to come up on $200 million because we got a quarterback down there.
Hey, Matt, you better talk to corporate because, hey, Timmy T and the 2 turntables, he's serious about that throwing that quarterback. So, hey, Matt, 95.7's got to pay him the big money.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, that's obviously a big storyline of this game today. The Niners with Brock Purdy, who is dealing with somewhat of a right shoulder injury, but obviously he's going to be playing in this football game. Down a couple weapons, down a couple of members on defense, 2 offensive linemen out, Trent Williams, Aaron Banks. But then on the Chicago side, they got their rookie in Caleb Williams, who's been dealing with a subpar offensive line. Again, has been sacked nearly 50 times this year. He's made some hell of plays and is a guy that can operate off script seemingly already with the best of them. Doesn't hit as many layups as somebody like Brock Purdy. But we were talking about before the show, this idea of moving forward. Again, the Niners are trying to essentially save their season today. If they lose, they're effectively done. If they win, they are about a 25% chance to make the playoffs. They got to win out, it feels like. Hope to get some help from the rest of the NFC West. But if I was to ask you, Lorenzo Neal, moving forward this offseason, we talked about what the Niners can do as far as standing pat, but they got to kind of trim the hedges, get some new blood in here. If I was to ask you a clean slate, that's what Chicago has moving into this offseason. They have their quarterback, but they don't have a head coach. Which franchise would you rather be moving forward, the San Francisco 49ers or the Chicago Bears? Because I think they're in 2 very different places.
They are. I look at where both these teams are. I think you have plenty of talent in Chicago. When you talk about sweat, you got a quarterback, you got a team that compete. If you have the right coach, you could easily be right there competing. But I think when you look at it, only reason I say Niners, I believe it or not, I'm saying this because the Niners have a weaker division. Seattle, the Rams, and Arizona compared to the Bears, compared to Detroit. And who else you got? Green Bay. Think about Minnesota.
All of them. All of them.
Which Chicago is the only team that's not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
in that division. So the reason, that's why I say I would take the Niners, because of just that division, what a gauntlet it is. So, but Chicago, whoever's going to inherit that team, they got some talent there. And the Niners, coach isn't going anywhere. I'd like to see Robert Saleh come back. And you talked about it. Hey, someone was talking about Miami. Miami fires their coach. Can you bring that head coach back, McDaniels back? Because I just think right now, Kyle Shanahan's on an island. I think Kyle Shanahan, he won't say it, and he's not going to say it, but God, you're as good as your assistant coaches. You're as good as your players. And that's the thing about it. Right now, I just think that think about the guys that's been plucked from this team. Think about the coaches that have been plucked from this organization, and everyone's talking about, Kyle Shanahan. No, you got to realize Kyle Shanahan has had Robert Saleh. He's had all these coaches. You look at around the league, how many coaches have been taken from the Houston Texans head coach. Think about how many assistant coaches and head coaches have been taken from this team, not just as head coaches, but assistant coaches.
And defensive coaches, too. We talk about the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree and how successful it is. Obviously, McVay, LaFleur, Raheem Morris, Mike McDaniel, even the OC, or DeMeco Ryans.
Yes.
Robert Saleh had a head coaching job. There's been a ton of guys.
And assistant coaches, too.
Exactly. Bobby Slowick, who he lost last year, is now helping the Houston Texans with DeMeco Ryans. No, they've been gutted.
Wes Walker was here.
I think, and I don't know if this is where you're going. To me, it's Kyle Shanahan has to find that next assistant that I believe he has trust in, because God love Nick Sorensen. I don't think the defense has been very impressive this season. I know it's his first year as a DC, but in Salah's first season as DC, they were at a different level. In Mike McDaniel's first year as run game coordinator, they were at a different level offensively. I don't think Kyle Shanahan has found someone that he truly trusts to help and basically just put it all on his plate and say, I don't have to worry about that unit.
Of course he doesn't have that person. And we saw that 2 weeks ago when we went down. Not we didn't go, but when this team and the organization traveled to Green Bay. You had a first down and you were in a situation where, boom, the Niners get called for 12 men on the field, and coach is upset because they tried to do a legal substitution.
Yeah.
He continues to talk to the official and get set, and then they have another one back to back. You couldn't get 12 guys off the field, not once but twice. That's inexcusable. Shanahan's getting on the officials because he's telling them, look, this team had a legal substitution. It wasn't done right. And he's letting the guy know, the official know that. And time the next play gets ready to start, you still have 12 guys on the field. That is not Shanahan's fault. Where is his assistant coaches? So absolutely, E, you're absolutely right. You have to find somebody that you can trust and say, look, I don't need this headache. And that's what he's got to get a new plethora of coaches that's coming in that's ready to go, because if not, I think they're going to continue to struggle.
Well, and I also, it's just about having help. You know, I think Kyle Shanahan is a really, really good, maybe even a great head coach, but he can't do everything. And sure, there's some parts about him you can criticize, some in-game management, play calling, all the rest. However, if you look at the successful teams in the NFC right now, Dan Campbell has Ben Johnson, who might get a head coaching job this offseason. His defensive coordinator is going to be up for some jobs. You look at Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell's a brilliant mind, but he's got Brian Flores that runs that defense at an extremely high level. So the best teams, yes, they have the best players. Yes, they have some injury luck, but they also have a brain trust of coaches that can help and aid that head coach. Even you look at a team right now that we're watching, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that a lot of people were down on Arthur Smith as a head coach in Atlanta, but he's now helping Russell Wilson help resurrect his career in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. So it's not just about, okay, Shanahan, you're the man and you're going to do it by yourself. No, sometimes even the best of the best need some help.
Absolutely. You have to realize, and that's why when you talk about, you think people are going to be knocking on the special teams door trying to get Sorensen, the D coordinator, after what happens after this year?
Not after this year.
That's my point. So you aren't going to go pluck bad coaches. You go and pluck, like you talked about. You talked about what's going to happen there in Detroit. Aaron Glenn is gone. Aaron Glenn interviewed for the Chargers. He interviewed, it was down to him and Harbaugh. They love how he interviews. He's going to be gone. Look at all the injuries. And that's another thing. I'm switching gears because I'm just, kind of just all over the place.
Let's do it.
Because think about this. We had the people from Bakersfield, from Z's, that came in, grabbing cigars, and you said, hey, look, they're like, hey, we understand, we got injuries, and so that's hurt us. Detroit Lions, look at the injuries they've had. They got Quan Alexander. They're bringing guys off the street.
Yeah.
And they're finding a way to win. See, that's the thing. If you can accept mediocrity, and if you can accept because, okay, I got injuries, when we're just going to say, woe is me, you're not. That's the thing that's missing. There's teams that we see that have, Detroit is mesmerized by injuries, but they're still able to win. Why?
Well, I think, number one, they don't have belief, but also they haven't been where I do want to run this by you. I think one of the reasons why the Niners have had such a hard time closing games is because when you have a team that isn't as good, and you know it, they're not as good as they were, even at full strength. I don't think they'd be as good as they were last year, or even some of the teams from the past 5 years outside of 2020. When you have veterans that know what kind of level that it takes to play at, to win successfully, and to dominate a football team, and you know you can't do it, I don't care how much belief you have, doubt innately creeps into your mind. And I think the Niners have a little bit of that. It's not the disease of me, but it's knowing that, gosh, I can't make that play that I used to make, or we as a team can't go get 7 like we used to just right out of the bat. So they're almost a product of their own creation, that because of the level, the standard that they've set, some of these veterans know that we're just not that team anymore. And so the Lions haven't been there yet.
Right.
They don't have that level of, okay, well, we've been, like, this is the best version of the Detroit Lions. So even if they've been decimated by injury, there's still that kind of, to your point, there is belief, but it's also, they don't have, like, their blinders are locked into this season. And so right now they're playing with a confidence that is almost new to them. And that's where they're able to just take it and run with it.
But look what happened to the Niners last year. We said the first 15, everyone said, what does the Niners do after the first 15? The first 15 days to score, just the donor every time, right?
Yep.
Think about what the Niners used to do every time they used to get the ball, like, oh my God, Niners going to score this drive. Every single drive starting the game, they used to always score. What has happened? It's not happened this year. It's the one of the worst. They used to be, okay, they're going to score the first drive. It's not happening. It's not there. I'm just confirming what you're talking about. They just say, godly. It's like, man, we just don't have it right now, and we can't seem to find it. And they're reaching, and they're gutting, and they're fighting, and it's just not there.
Well, and that's why I think it's been frustrating for fans, is because what a lot of fans are seeing is the players being confused. They're confused as to why they can't summon the level that they did just less than 365 days ago. Right. And that's where the NFL, not for long, like the NFL is a league that changes so quickly. And I don't think, again,
it's frustrating.
I don't think it means that the Niners, and the long stretch of success for football is over. I think this is a down year, but it means that, yes, this is a team that is trying to figure out play to play how to make those adjustments. And when you have to make so many in-game adjustments, you end up, guys are out of position. Offensively, you're not where you need to be. You miss a block here. You commit a penalty in a tough situation. Defensively, you miss a coverage. All those little mistakes are, I think, a result of them overthinking right now, because they're confused as to why they can't be the team from last year.
I remember wrestling. And when I had a tough match, man, I'd do the George Foreman, how he just did that little jog and he'd turn around, just that nice look, and I would just boom. I would go listen to my music and just be relaxed. I'd play around with the guys, and they were like, man, because I was getting ready to wrestle against a guy named Kurt Mammon, who's ranked number 2 in the country, and everyone's like, man, why are you just so loose? Why are you doing? Because I knew if I'm just, you go out there and you're trying so hard, you make a bad shot, you're so stiff, you're so tight. I feel that the Niners, they're not saying, okay, we the Niners. It used to be like, here we go, boom. And you would watch the crowd. The crowd would start getting antsy and cocky. You would watch the players, Fred and all the players, like just giving it up. But you knew when you saw that, it was like, oh boy, here we go. It's not there. It's that, even if they make a play, it's this guy's tight, because they know the next play they're usually not going to give it up. So that's what I've seen, a huge difference in this team. They just seem tight, and they're always holding and gripping, because, like you said, they just don't seem to have it, the sustainability to finish.
And especially to bring it to Levi's Stadium. And again, stop by the Hilton Santa Clara for the tailgate party presented by Habas Law. It's a great time. Bears fans, Niners fans, drinking, having some libations, great food, great fun. Stop by again at the Hilton Santa Clara for every single Niners home game at the tailgate party presented by Habas Law. You just go to what the Niners did at home last year. This was a place where, I don't care who you were. You could have been top of the market. I know they had a home loss, but the Niners felt like they were going to dog walk every team that stepped into their building. You look at their home games from last year. 30-12, they beat the Giants. 35-16, decimated the Cardinals. 42-10 on Sunday night against the Cowboys. 27-24 against Tampa Bay. 28-16 against Seattle.
They run you.
They absolutely battered teams that came to their home, and they haven't been able to do it. Even the games they've won at home this season, it hasn't felt the same.
And when they would, not just would they drag them, go look, it was over 25 carries a game. They would take your cornbread, take your life. Go watch when they were beating up those teams. It was 40, running the ball 25, 30, 35. Just going out in this side, stop me if you can, and just run it down your throat and watch teams just start bleeding and blood start coming out their nose, and they would just like, we give up. They would wave the white flag. You saw them just like, when can we get to the bus, and when do we go take a shower? I want to go home. I don't want to be out out here anymore.
No, and that's exactly how it is this year. It feels like sometimes that this is a team that wants to get off the field.
Yes, but now that's exactly. Now this year, the Niners said, okay, please, that's enough. Or so they want to say, can we just call timeout? It's the third quarter. We got a double-digit lead. Can this game just be over? Yeah. And they're just gripping and hoping that something happens, and that's the difference in this year to last year.
And I think it's as much about the level that they haven't been able to summon as also, and you talked about, you were on this early, I want to say back in like week 5, is that now no one fears you.
No.
Now everyone sees the blood in the water, and so when they go see, oh wow, the Niners blew a 17-point lead week 3 against the Rams. Oh, they blew a double-digit lead against the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, well, it doesn't matter if we're down 14 points because they're not just going to run all over us and run away with this football game. No, we're still in this game, even if the Niners get out to that early lead. And they're also a team, conversely, that if we score against early, we can put them away. And that's just not a San Francisco 49ers brand of football that I've been accustomed to watching for the last 5 years. And I think it's frustrating for fans, and it's probably frustrating for the team, especially for someone like Kyle Shanahan, who knows where his team can get to.
Absolutely. It's like watching Jerry Rice walk through here. You can go to college and any DB in college, high school pros, whatever pros, and say top tier college. But any DB in the NFL right now, you can say, hey, can you guard Jerry Rice? They'd laugh and say, Jerry, can't, please. Yeah. They know they could shave him. It's like, even though we have the mystique, and then once they know that you see that, hey, he just doesn't have it. That's what this Niner team is right now. And Jerry was the greatest of all time. We know that. But now you get a DB or you get a guy that's in the league and say, okay, you're going to go guard Jerry, 60 years old. DB is like, okay, go ahead, try to run a 9 route. Let me go eat my sandwich and I'll catch you on the backside. It's just, and it's unfortunate, but that's where you're at. Like you talked about, now these teams are like, dude, it's the Niners. You think Chicago Bears is coming in here today afraid of the Niners?
No.
You think these Bears are coming and say, oh, God, we're playing the San Francisco 49ers and we're going to be afraid? Dude, they believe they can win this game. I'm telling you, they believe that they're going to beat the 49ers. They're going to come out, and if the Niners don't respond early and show they put these teams and put them in bad position, you get beat today. And that's what they have to do. They have to come out and say, look, let's make Chicago Bears realize, man, that we got one or two left in us. That's what I want to see this team just finish, man, to show that they have a couple left in them, man.
Well, and that's why off the top of the show, again, I know that the records are slightly different, 5-7 versus 4-8, but I feel like as far as where their seasons are, these two teams are in similar places. Chicago essentially eliminated. The 49ers still have an outside chance to make the playoffs, but Chicago is probably, even without their head coach, saying, look, we lost the last 3 weeks to arguably the 3 best teams in the NFC. At Detroit, versus Minnesota at home, and then at home against Green Bay. They lost 3 games by a combined 7 points. They don't think that they're that far away from victory, though they have L's on their resume. So they might also be looking, like we're talking about how the Niners have probably seen the Bears saying, gosh, well, we're playing these top teams. This is a get-right opportunity. I'm sure the Bears, even though their season is not going anywhere, are looking at this Niners team, licking their chops, saying, this is our get-right opportunity. Losing sucks. I don't care whether you're good, whether you're bad. It leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And so the Bears are probably champing at the bit, saying, all right, this is a Niners team that is ready to be put away. Their coffin is made for them, and we're the ones that can put the nail in that coffin unless the Niners somehow are able to break out.
Oh, without a doubt. You're going to see this Bear team's fight, and you're going to see this Bear team. They're building for next year. The Bears are sitting here saying, look, guys, remember this feeling. The Bears, they remind me a little bit. They remind me of Detroit 3-4 years ago because they were right there competing. Now this Bears teams, they're competing with teams. They're right in the thick, like you just talked about, Eba. They're right there, barely losing to these games. You lost to the best 3 teams in the league. You lost to them a total of 7 points. This team they're saying, look, guys, we're so close. Remember this feeling. They're going to be able to compete next year, and they know that. And so that's what makes this game that much more appealing today, because you have a team that's stepped back this year, the Niners, but still has some talent that still can rise up. This team's still going to be able to compete next year, but it's going to be how do you want to go into next year? That's why I'm saying finish. Show people that you still can play at a high level, because this year may be over, but let's see this Niner team finish. Let's see them play with anticipation. Let's see them play with the grit and the tenacity that fight to make it a 4-quarter game that you're saying, okay, here's this Niner team. They're not going anywhere. God, they're winning. They're finding a way to play for 4 quarters hard. That's what we want to see. It's not necessarily the winning entertaining part of it, but just see them play with consistency, man, for 4 quarters.
Well, and that's why, kind of from a bird's eye view, I'm excited about this game, because whether you think that the season for the Niners is going somewhere or nowhere, I think that's 100% fair. But you're going to see a Chicago Bears team, to me, that is budding. All right, they have reason to believe that next year can be a big season for that football team because of the young talent they have, particularly at the quarterback position. But they're going to have a new head coach. They're going to have a culture change. They have reason to believe that they can take a step forward. I think for me, this game today also has a chance to reveal what kind of budding talent there is on the Niners, because you're going to have Isaac Guerrero stepping into the RB1 spot. Though he may not be your starter next year, that's someone that you can rely on if injuries happen to the Niners again next year. You're looking at some edge rushers that are going to have to step in for Nick Bosa, that have already had to step in at the defensive tackle position for Hargrave. You're trying to figure out where the Niners are going to find their next players. Renardo Green, their second-round pick, is going to be playing big snaps today. You're looking at Malik Mustafa. There's a lot of rookies, even young players like Jair Brown, who a lot of people were mad at for not making a tackle that resulted in a 65-yard touchdown last week against Buffalo. Those are the kinds of learning experience that we can. All right, who's going to be the budding talent for the Niners to help them next season, whether they have to start, whether they have to provide depth? So I think both of these teams, again, the Niners season isn't necessarily done, but you can also get a glimpse for both of these teams of what their futures can be.
Oh, no question you are. And if you're a GM, if you're John Lynch, and whoever you are, for the Chicago Bears as well, these GMs are seeing what they have. They're going to see, hey, what do we need to do to improve? The Niners, they need a plethora of players on that defensive front, on that offensive line. They need to get some players. They got to think about changing the philosophy, because a lot of people talk about how they like skill positions. The Niners have to go through their thought process and say, we got to get better back in the trenches. We got to get better offensively, defensively in the trenches. We can't necessarily overpay for these skill positions, because we have to make sure we're able to improve in the interior on both sides of the ball if you want to compete. So, yes, this is a great evaluation game for both teams.
And this is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURE or visit habaslaw.com. If you're looking to tailgate again about an hour before kickoff, 125 Niners, Chicago, Levi's Stadium. Get on out to the Hilton Santa Clara. Great food, great drinks, great time. The tailgate party is presented by Habas Law. That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. We got a conversation also coming up with Brian Baldinger, our Odyssey NFL insider, a great football mind that's going to be coming up at 1 o'clock, leading you into kickoff that we're very much looking forward to playing for you. All that and more straight ahead right here on 95.7 The Game.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
All right, live here at the Hilton Santa Clara right before the Niners take on the Chicago Bears. Again, we are looking at Week 14 of the NFL, the final quarter of the season, really low. Coming down to the wire, the Niners with 5 games left, including today. Feels like they kind of need to win out to give themselves an opportunity. But at least looking around the rest of the NFC, you're also going to be able to at least hopefully gain a bit of ground if you can win today. And we'll get to our predictions and, again, keys to the game coming up in just a little bit. But Buffalo, a team that shellacked you last week, goes to Los Angeles to play the Rams, who are 500 at 6-6. You would hope that the Bills could help you out a little bit and win that football game. And then the Seahawks and the Cardinals also play. They kick off in a half an hour in Arizona. I don't know if you're rooting for one versus the other, but either way, they're going to beat up on each other. So the Niners, if they can win today, can at least give themselves a bit more hope.
Yeah, you want Arizona. I mean, don't we want Arizona? Because
so.
Seattle's 2 games up. I thought Seattle was going to lose last week. I thought the Jets had a chance, and they should have won that game. They squandered away. So
yeah, they did.
You wouldn't be in this situation. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Arizona in that game goes, today. But I'd just like to see the Niners just come out and play, man, and play the way that I know they're capable of playing. And what is capable, it just means, I'm just saying, like, don't have the mistakes. I'm saying, the self-inflicted wounds, those don't do the self-inflicted. Have just play consistent. Don't turn the ball over. Don't do these nonsense things because you can't overcome them. For some reason, you're not as good as you were. So just don't have those mistakes and give your chance a better chance to win if you do that today.
Yeah, and it feels like injury is of course been the theme of the season, but self-inflicted injury has also been a big part too, whether it's penalties, whether it's blown plays on special teams, explosive plays that they've been giving up. They got ran all over last week against Buffalo. I think it was a bit different of a situation when you're playing in snow. You can't turn, you can't maneuver. We are going to see the Niners. I think they're also happy that, number one, they don't have to play the caliber of opponent of the Packers or the Bills, but also they can finally get back to a place where it's not 30 degrees or less, where the winds aren't whipping like it was up in Lambeau, or like it's snowing like it was in Orchard Park, New York. At least they can come back home in front of the home crowd. They only got 3 home games left this season. Get back to their own beds and get back ideally to what we know what can be San Francisco 49ers football.
Yeah, and for me, I think today's game is about, we've been on the road, we've been away, we got our butt kicked. The 2 worst whippings of the year these last 2 weeks has been bad. It's been ferocious. What can we show the fans, these hardworking fans that are coming to watch us play today? Let's give them something today. That's what I think this is about. Playing hard. You're home. Even if you don't forget the playoffs, man, this isn't about, my message to the team, guys, quit thinking about playoffs. Yes, we're not mathematically out. Stop thinking about that. Let's just go out and play football. Let's go out and find a way to win this game. Let's go out and have the fans. Let's have this place rocking. Because if you win and if you're playing well, these fans want to cheer. That's the thing that's what I want to see. I want you to give them something to cheer about, something to yell about, make these fans happy. That's all. They don't care about all the rest of this stuff. Hold your head up. Go get energy. Fly around. Have everyone fired up. That's what I want to see tonight.
Well, and I think that's the part about their last home game against Seattle, which was so, in addition, obviously the loss, it was deflating, it was kind of dead. The crowd wasn't allowed to get into that football game.
I know, and that's what we're talking about, because they're just hoping. You're on the edge of your seat waiting for something to cheer about, and you haven't been able to turn the corner. And you just look at it. There's a lot of teams that had high expectations. Yeah, you look at Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. Everyone thought that this was going to be a team this year, that they had a great defense, and they're supposed to have one of the best offensive line in football. Their defense up to last week only had 10 sacks. And then the Chargers, they get 5. So when you think about, there is a lot of teams that expectations have been blown, that's went away. And you're in a situation that, I know Shanahan likes Kirk Cousins, but I don't think Kirk Cousins may be the quarterback next year, because you drafted a guy in the first round that now people are calling for him in Atlanta. So I know everyone's upset, disappointed with the Niners. I just think that it's a down year. I just think, like you said, they were tired. A lot of other things has happened, injuries. And it's just one of those years that you just don't have it. But how do you finish? That's the whole thing. It's about trying to finish, trying to figure out, hey, look, guys, this year hasn't went the way we wanted. But my God, can't we finish? Can't we figure out a way to play a lot better than what we're playing?
Well, and again, you need to win out. To me, it's less about how you make the postseason than it is how you approach each individual week. Because it feels like the expectation of getting back to the Super Bowl, for some maybe winning the Super Bowl, that's almost been like an anvil attached to the ankles of this season for the Niners. And so finally, like I would argue that because of the expectation and because of where you've been this season, this is probably the most free that the Niners have been able to play maybe since they began to really rev things up under Kyle Shanahan in his entire tenure. They've been beaten down the last 2 weeks. People don't expect anything from him on a national level. And so it's like, all right, well, now we can just go out and play. And this is a Bears team that is ripe for the picking. If the Niners, if you're asking about keys or X's and O's, to me, the key is to get to 21 points. If you can get 3 touchdowns against this Bears team, they have scored over 21 points more than just one time this season. If you can score the football at an adequate level, and 21 points ain't that much. You're asking for 20 plus against the Bears. They can win this football game.
I totally agree. And like you just alluded to, talking about for the first time, it's like, hey, we still want to know we can still be. We can get where we still want to go to the Super Bowl, the playoffs, win our division. We still can do those things. Like you're saying, every week that's the story. Now you're like, man, forget that. Stop talking about, we can get where we want to go and get in the Super Bowl. Quit thinking that way. Just go play football. Exactly what you're saying. This may be the freest week because, look, your expectations have dropped. The National Football League now, no one's expecting you to get in the playoffs. Yeah. No one's expecting you to do anything anymore. So now you don't got to you don't got to get in front of the media and be like, yeah, we got to get back. We still have a chance, and making people believe you have to stop. No need to no more. Now it's just go handle business. Go play football. Go do the things that you're capable of doing. Go show us that you can put together a game, a full game, without the penalties, without the self-inflicted wounds. Go do that. Now we don't have to worry about, oh, my God, we're getting to the Super Bowl, we're going to the playoffs. Man, just go play football right now.
And I think that the one thing that gives me confidence that the Niners can win this football game is, and really because they haven't had a dominating performance, is the only way that they've won this year is ugly. And it feels like every single time the Bears have lost, it's been that close 50-50 play, maybe a strange play here down the stretch or there. I know the Niners have lost those games as well, but that's been pretty much the bugaboo this year for the Chicago Bears. The Niners, I think, I don't know if I expect them to come out and roll Chicago again because they haven't done it to any opponent, no matter how good they've been this season. But the Chicago Bears, they're not Buffalo. They're not Green Bay. They're not Minnesota. This is a team that the Niners, I think, can take advantage of, because the one thing that I guess is a wild card in this game, and I'm curious how you feel about this as a former player, Lo, anytime a head coach gets fired and a coordinator has to step in as an interim coach, they almost have a little bit of a reset button, a bounce back game too. How much does that play into it for Chicago? Because they also might look a lot different than what they've been the last few weeks.
I think you can see a coach that's going to even be more aggressive. Now you got a guy that's saying, hey, look, I want the opportunity. Want the opportunity to be the coach. Want the opportunity, and now, hey, look, and believe it or not, they're going to go out in the market and they're going to bring in a new head coach, Chicago. But if you're now the interim coach, and if you're in your mind, if you're saying, if I can go win 4 games or win the rest of these games and have the players talk good about me, Antonio Pierce, Raiders, how'd that work out? So now that's what you're thinking so you're absolutely right. This is going to be a different type of Chicago Bear team. It's going to be a team that's going to be more aggressive going forward because of the fact you're going to have a coach that's saying, in his mind, I'm going to put my name in the hat. And how do I put my name in the hat? It's go out here and win the next 4 or 5 games and have these players respect me, and maybe, and just maybe, I'll have a chance to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, for like this game and the rest of the season are showcases for the Chicago Bears, for all their players, for all their coaches. it is not yet in the showcase period of the season for the 49ers because they have not technically been eliminated from the postseason. Now, we've talked about, their emerging players, the rookies, the young guys that are going to have to step up because Bosa, Trent, obviously Aaron Banks, Dre Greenlaw still out for this football game. Diamador Lenore, they get back. Brock Purdy will be healthy. Kittle, Debo will be out there. Ricky Pearsall. I think that the Niners are in a position where I want to see what we haven't the last 2 weeks, which is some fight. I realize that the season is not going to where they want it to, but what do you do when the chips are down?
Right.
And it's not, again, like you're playing a top-tier team. Buffalo has reason to believe they can win a Super Bowl. Green Bay, maybe less so, but still, they have their eyes set on the postseason. Chicago doesn't. So how do you play against a team that doesn't have anything the remainder of the regular season to play for? That's another question I have for the Niners, because if they don't win this game, I do think that it will be very revealing about the state of the locker room and just how much belief, like you talked about, Lo, that word belief they have in themselves.
Yeah, for me, you talk about, hey, look, the season's not over and all this stuff. It may not be, but for me, if I'm Shanahan and I'm John Lynch, I'm doing the same thing Chicago's doing. I'm showcasing because I want to see if I have some trade value for any of these players. If I'm a feature a player, I'm going to see if it's a trade value. If I'm going to play young guys, I'm going to see if they can step up and see if they start. Can they play in a good? And so what? If you win, you win. If you can get in the playoffs doing it that way, do it that way, because you're really not thinking you're going to make a lot of noise. So go out and go ahead and showcase what's wrong with playing the young guys. What's wrong with going out there and playing the young guys and give them more of a role to rest your old guys if you're saying this is about reloading. Because even if you win and get in the playoffs, what are you really going to do right now? So it's like, okay, so let me showcase these young guys. Let me get my burn with Garendo. Let me see this guy carry 20-some totes and see how he handles it. Let's just see how my other young receivers and what my DBs can do. I think you play. I don't think this is a game that you say, oh, it's just about start. No, I think you showcase guys right now. I really do.
Well, and showcasing to me is again who they're trying to figure out can be a big part of their season for next year. I'm with you. The injuries that have happened to their veteran guys. The one person that I do think, look, I don't believe that Trent should play another down this year if they don't win this football game today. Even if they do, I think you have to consider thinking about his future more so than the immediate. Nick Bosa, perhaps even the same. You can't jeopardize those players for next year. The one guy that's interesting because he's played throughout this injury for much of the season without us knowing it is Fred Warner. He's been playing on a fractured ankle. I don't know how you try to get him to shut it down because he's only missed one game in his career. That might be the one exception to the rule where if I'm in that locker room, I let Fred Warner tell me whether or not he gets to play her because he's been doing it for so long. I don't know. How do you broach that conversation with a player of his caliber, Lo?
I think you approach it. Just what you said. You have the conversation with him. Hey, Fred, look, we know you want to play, but we're shutting you down. You know what? We believe that you have a bunch of good years in you. I don't know if we want to run you out there. Harrod's going to be like, oh, coach, I want to play. I want to show the team. I get that, but we're going to sit you this game. We're going to let some young guys play, and then maybe again next week, let's get you back out there next week. I don't think it behooves them right now to beat up some of your guys. Some of these guys, you need to try to rest them and rest their body. Fred Warner plays this game very hard. He plays the way it needs to be played. But at the same sense, you want to make sure that you don't just necessarily throw Fred Warner out there because Fred Warner wants to play. You say, no, Fred, we're not doing this because what is good for the team? Is that good for the team for this guy to play? And especially when you're talking about maybe reloading and thinking about how do you go for it next year, he doesn't need the wear and tear on his body. Just doesn't need it.
Well, and the Niners, look, they also don't have a whole lot of time between now and their next game. Say they beat Chicago, you got to load up for a Rams team that took your lunch down at SoFi earlier this season on Thursday Night Football. So the Niners have not only the Bears to play, the Bears to beat, but they got a tough schedule coming up down the rest of this season. After Los Angeles on a short week, which will again be at home, then you go to Miami, which is never a tough place to play against your former protege in Mike McDaniel. You're taking Detroit on a home game on Monday night, in which they might still be fighting for the 1 seed, and that's never a team you can take lightly. And then you finish up with Arizona. They have obviously all must-win games left on their schedule, but it's not going to be easy, and so that's where where it hurt me the first 5 weeks of the year when you were playing the Jets, the Rams, the Patriots, and the Cardinals. You had a lot of winnable games early, and the reason why they're in this position right now where they're fighting for their lives is because they didn't take care of business when they didn't have all of the injuries that they've now suffered.
Right, but even though you're fighting for your life, and even though you haven't had those injuries and now you have these injuries, you still right now can say, look, I want to get in the playoffs, but I'm not going to sacrifice my team. I'm going to get in the playoffs. If we're going to get in the playoffs, it's going to be with young guys. It's going to be with guys that we believe that we can throw out there. We're going to get to see what they're going to. And if they happen to win, they win. That's what this is about. It can't be like, oh, my God, I got to play Trent. Trent, we got to get you shot up. We got to get you out in the field. Take this shot. We need you to win. Because for what? For who? Why are you going to put that type of wear and tear on this guy? Now, if you happen to get in the playoffs and he says, I want to play now in the playoffs, or you get a couple players that saying, hey, we want to play, then let them play. But why not rest these guys for the next 3 or 4 weeks, man? It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. I understand you're saying, hey, look, all we got to do is win out. Yeah. Now the Rams come next week. If you win today, does Trent play next week? If he says he wants to play, you let him play. But you don't sacrifice these guys now unless it means something. So I think that you'll see some guys play next week, especially if you win this week. I believe it wouldn't be far-fetched for me to say right now, to go out on a limb, to say if the Niners beat the Chicago Bears, Trent Williams will play next week.
I think so, but again,
if they don't win, he will not play.
He should not, especially if the Seahawks win. They go 3 games up. And you're effectively out of the division, and that's your one hope. That is your one hope. The thing about the Niners that I struggle with a little bit is, the rest of the season is something that obviously you're fighting for. You're trying to win football games, but by also beginning to kind of look ahead, you're making the job a lot more difficult for someone like Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. I'm not saying that, look, those are the guys you pay big money to, or you will hopefully pay big money to. You could pay big money to in your quarterback. It's hard for me to look at these games, especially Buffalo and Green Bay, and say, Brock Purdy didn't play against Green Bay. Even if he did, I think they lose that game. But these are now spots where for Purdy, he is in a disadvantageous position. So I struggle with how much am I going to hold these games against him when I make my evaluation of him this upcoming offseason. I think he's got a lot to prove, but I also have to be reasonable in saying, well, gosh, you're down Christian McCaffrey, you're down Trent Williams, you're down Aaron Banks, your defense isn't as good. How much can Brock Purdy realistically do? Because I think that there is a ceiling on him.
Yeah, for me, it's already predetermined. I already told you, I've drawn my line in the dirt and the sand and say, hey, this guy is getting X. He's getting $5, and that's not when, and that's where we're willing to go. And I'm not going $1 over $5. And I love him. I love what he's done for the organization. Hey, Brock, we love what you did, but our number's $5. And if that's the number, then that's the number. You can't compromise the good of the team because you feel loyal to do these for the players. Because if you're going to do that, you're not going to compete next year. You talked about, hey, how's this team reload and get ready for next year? What do they need to do to think about reloading? Do you go for it? If you are going to go for it, if you play this guy $10 and you're saying, I'm willing to go 5, and then you go up to 10, you're hurting your team to be able to get elsewhere to make this team viable. You're talking about viable. How viable are the 49ers and how willing are they going to be able to compete next year? If you not overpay, but if you go over budget and it doesn't fit, you're hurting the team.
It is. And look, and Brock Purdy's got a big challenger in front of him today. We talked about the trenches matchup, right? Chicago has a porous offensive line. You hope the Niners could be able to take advantage of that with their pass rush, which is also down there, maybe their best defensive player, Nick Bosa. But on the offensive side, this is a Chicago Bears defense. That's the strength of their team, is their defensive line. They have a pretty good defense that's been able to keep the Lions in check, that's been able to keep the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, who, by the way, Sam Darnold threw 5 touchdowns today. That's a defensive line that could keep those top offenses in check. So Brock Purdy is going to have his work cut out for him as well. To me, I think that Chicago is trying to, and I think a lot of teams have done this so far as we wind down here, they are trying to out-physical the 49ers because they are more feeble than perhaps they've ever been in the Kyle Shanahan era since they started contending. So how do the Niners match up in the physicality department? That's where I think as we get to our predictions, I'm looking for the Niners to finally show us something, why I believe they can win this football game. I think it's going to be close. Knowing the Chicago Bears, I think the Niners can win this game, but I think it's going to be somewhere 23-20. I think it's going to be really tight. It's going to be a low-scoring football game, but it's one that the Bears have lost all season, and it's honestly one that the Niners have been able to win this season, those close, tight, low-scoring matchups.
Yeah, I think this game comes down, you talk about physicality, it's always going to come down to physicality, but I think that it's going to come down to coaching. I think that this is going to be a game that Mike Shanahan has to out scheme and do some things and create some missed opportunities and create some big plays. I think this is a coaching matchup, and I think Shanahan clearly outclasses this coach. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does collectively as a coaching staff to say, well, this is what we're going to do to this young team. I'm going to come up with some design and different things that's going to, by design, put them in a compromising position that we're going to be able to make, to strike while the iron's hot. So I think that is going to be a huge facet and a huge difference in this game is coaching today. If you're going to win this game, I really believe that this is going to come down to Kyle Shanahan's ability to outcoach this young man.
Well, and that's something that can't happen. Kyle Shanahan cannot get outcoached by an interim coach. I realize it's happened, in the past. You think about Jeff Saturday walking off the ESPN set, going and beating the Raiders with the Colts and all the rest. But Kyle Shanahan is established. If you can't find a way to at least put your team in a successful position, well, then I am going to be looking at him tomorrow morning, not doing the Monday morning quarterbacking, but doing the Monday morning head coaching, because you're right. That's an advantage you clearly have, and it's something that should be able to lead them to victory.
Oh, without a doubt, and that's what they're going to probably do tonight, and it's going to be interesting because this game's getting ready to kick off, and I want to see, like I said, collectively a team to go out there and play for 4 quarters, but don't lose in the 4th quarter. Win this game. Don't win the turnover battles. Don't lose in the 4th quarter. Play with it like your hair's on fire and finish. It's not about winning. This is about playing collective and good fundamental football, which you haven't been able to do for 4 quarters pretty much all year long. That's what I want to see, a team find a way to finish today.
Well, and hopefully in about 30 minutes, we can see the beginning, not the beginning of the end, but hopefully the beginning of a 49ers victory that can steer them back towards the right direction. Looking to move to 6-7 against a 4-8 Chicago Bears team that has lost 6 in a row. That'll do it for us here at the Hilton Santa Clara on the Kickoff Show, presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Also, make sure to tune in after the final whistle for overtime with Mark Grandy, Sterling Bennett, Kyle Madsen, all right here on 95.7 The Game. They got you locked and loaded for postgame between the 49ers and the Bears. Must-win game for the 49ers to keep their playoff hopes alive. We'll see if they can get it done. So for the great Lorenzo Neal, for our engineer Tim Jordan, my name is Evan Giddings saying so long from Santa Clara and Levi's Stadium. We'll talk to you next time on the Kickoff Show right here, presented by Habas Law on 95.7 The Game.
Television sales on Black Friday set new records as millions of Americans snapped up the hot deals. But a lot of people were out of town or too busy to take advantage of the special pricing. So, how about a redo? Right now, you've got a second chance to save big on many of the top-rated Samsung, LG, and Sony TVs. Where? At Video Only, where the smart shoppers go. So, don't miss out. Check out Video Only now, or
you'll be sorry. Do you often worry you left the garage door open? With a LiftMaster